record to the computer. Okay, perfect. We should be going. I don't know if you guys heard the recording is on.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know how to start. So let's start with readings. How did y'all feel about the readings? Sam and I mentioned that we liked the movies. That was nice. Um,
It was a good pick me up.
it was a good pick me
I
up.
feel like the Bluey video, like the one where they were at movies,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like as I continued on with the readings, like that one made more and more sense of like how it like tied back in because it was kind of like Bluey like wanted to fit in like so bad. He was like, I'm gonna be like, like a big kid and go to the movies like all my friends, even though like she was scared. It was kind of cool how like the movie was like depicting like her situation in like a different way.
Yeah.
Um, and trying to like, it's okay to be different. It's okay to be unique. It's okay to stand up for your beliefs and like be you. Let your character develop as you. And I feel like as we kind of as I went through like the rest of the readings, I feel like a lot of those principles just stood out more from that boy video. I'm gonna go blow my nose real quick.
Oh, you're again. My nose is very stuffy right now. Yeah, that was a fun episode. I liked while she's off on her adventure. I really like the that's really awkward. Sorry, a pop-up showed up and it was a picture of my dad. Um, I really like the Dead Poet Society videos, mainly because I really like that movie, but I love the idea that it kind of brings of like um in my brain that like education doesn't have to be put in this box a lot of times, and it's the like group mentality that we can break out of. Um, like we don't have to be defined by the definitions of what poetry is, or we don't have to stay in our seats in certain things. I don't know. I really liked the Dead Poet Society. I just like I think a lot of this week's readings was making sure that we understood that group mentality can be detrimental to a lot of us in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I agree. I also really like that movie. Dead is like I haven't seen it in a while, but every time I watch it, I'm like, oh, this is so good. Um, I think I really like because like in every video, it kind of challenges some kind of part of society. Like they are breaking like the social norms, which I kind of feel like went into the experiment from last week of breaking the norms that little experiment we had to do. Um, and so it was kind of like it's always fun to just see something that I don't quite understand play out later. Um, but I like that the teacher, because I can't remember his name, but like he always is telling them that like their perspective on something matters. So like they can he's always trying to get them to change their perspective on something. And I feel like that applies to us today, like we're especially in school, because because you're able to control how you study and how you do in school. And so I feel like that kind of is a little bit of a helpful mentality to have. Is, oh, I can kind of control how I do this. And it's just a good overall perspective change.
Mhm. Yeah, the idea of like I have power over um kind of like over myself and over my own learning, and then everyone else can be added to that learning or that aspect in a way. Yeah, cool. Um, that was the Dead Poet Society videos we just mentioned a little bit of. And then
And
I'm trying to remember my notes on I forgot to take notes this week, so I have to like open up the readings.
no, it was good. I liked I don't know. I feel like one thing that I just like
I don't know. I just kind of sad to me. It was like on the very first one, like the Rip It Out Dead Poet Society. I
Hmm.
already saw there was like that one kid that was like vigorously taking notes and like drawing the graph and was just like in it. And I feel like sometimes like that just depicts like how sometimes we can just, you see a news article, you hear a teacher say something, and you just take that as like 100% fact. Like this is what consists of the world. Like this is the best way to evaluate poetry. And it can create kind of like a fixed mindset, but it's just cool to, see that kid kind of grow and like be like, no, like rip it out. And they're like, what? And so I feel like it's okay to like, stand different, like be a little bolder. I don't know. I like that.
Yeah, because like, isn't also I'm trying to remember that video, but isn't it also like there's some kids that were so vigorously ripping it out and like
Yeah.
vigorously just like so
I'm
excited. They're like,
like,
yes,
oh,
they're like, go. I feel like you have to, in some extremes, you have to be careful about both aspects. Like you
yeah.
can't be so excited to break the norms to not acknowledge the truth that may be shared in it, but also
Mhm.
don't get so caught up in the norms or in that rigid definition. Um, and it's like you have to find that balance between the two. And I
Yes.
like what you
Yes.
mentioned is that
Healthy skepticism.
yes, healthy
Hmm.
skepticism, help all of that. Otherwise, you're going to be screwed over if you go too far one way or the other. It actually reminds me of my Jigsaw in 9.2. It was mine was the tribalism in America, like the behavioral thing. Just kind of talking about like politics and how we in America specifically, when you are in a political party, um, you will basically die on that hill. Like that is your political party and that is your thing. And I think we see that in our own lives. Um, I think it's just one of those things where we get so caught up in the group mentality um, that we're not skeptical of what we're being told from either our party leaders or whatever it is. And it's not a healthy skepticism if it is a skepticism at all.
No, I really like that comment because I guess, yeah, like jumping over to 9.2 a little bit. I feel like that one, like big one that we all read, like I can tolerate anything except one that talking about like political groups and tribes and all that.
Mhm.
And then like my Jigsaw one, did talk a lot about like the parties and then like specifically like how parties, how like the two separate parties can have like different, almost like core beliefs,
Mhm.
like values, and that's what kind of separates them. But it's not, I don't know, all necessarily that. But it just made me kind of personally think of like, I think there are a lot of people out there who are a party, and like that's just a party they've always been, and they are on that hill to die on that hill, and might not necessarily agree with like the beliefs. It's like, well, I want to like pick a party. I want to like vote for a president where it's like my personal beliefs, what I feel is right, most align with theirs
Mhm.
and what they're doing. But I feel like so often in today's society, it's not necessarily that and trying to align yourself or like pick someone who you feel most aligned with. But it's like, you know, they're under this party, they're under this party, they're blue, they're red, and just like sticking with that. And I feel like that fixed mindset, like you were saying earlier, Haley, like that herd mentality, I feel like can be really detrimental.
Hmm. That was kind of what my Jigsaw 9.2 focused heavily on was like politics and like depression, especially in like high school seniors between 2005 and 2018. Because I decided to break it down because why not? But it just kind of focused on like mental health as a whole, like whether or not being a part of a certain like political party and really heavily focusing on that and not taking any like kind of point of view. from other people and how detrimental that is because a lot of people were liberal or considered a lot of the seniors considered themselves liberal or conservative, like strictly. And then I mean, you have a few people who are like, "Oh, I'm in between," or "I don't really associate with one." Um, but throughout the whole study, it was crazy to just see that as time went on, teenagers' mental health increased with like depression and loneliness, and then like their self-esteem would decrease as they just focused heavily on one party. And so it was just interesting to see like how much just like sticking with one crowd can be detrimental, and how it just changes certain variables in a kid's life or in anybody's life really. Um, and so it was just really I don't know, that looked like fascinating, but kind of like what you guys were talking about, that just kind of sticking with one group and not really changing that perspective or um I've lost that, but the just like not changing that perspective and not being willing to open like open your mind to something new can be so mentally like mentally changing to the point where you do see that increase in like loneliness or um, depression just because you get so worked up about one party and how you outcast the people who don't believe what you believe. And so it was just really crazy just to see, oh, it's good to change the mindset, to change that perspective, and to be willing to love everyone, even if they don't quite believe what you believe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I had a kind of a thought like come to mind like while you're talking, Eliza, of like what happens when we like allow ourselves to like see multiple groups and like see the I don't know both sides, and it goes back to like that reading like the Dead Poet Society one where like the teacher's like leaving and all the kids like stand on the desk.
Captain, my captain.
Oh, Captain, my Captain. Yes,
I
that
love
one.
that part.
And it was just like at first I feel like these kids were really skeptical of this teacher.
Hmm.
Like they were like, and I feel like sometimes like we're really skeptical of things like at first we're like, okay, like what are you doing? Like I'm not about that. But it's just cool to see how it's like as their minds and hearts open, like so many of them, like that skepticism changed to like creativity and thought. And now they have a broader view of the world. They have more knowledge. They're able to see things differently. Like it truly changed them as a character and the world they live in and the way they see the world that they live in. So I don't know. I thought it was really powerful of just like and how you were talking about like the mental health and like coming out of it and just like what it does to our mindset and how we see the world, how we see ourselves, how we see those around us.
Yeah. I think I like what you said, Savannah. Like they spent time with what they were skeptical of, and I think that's something that in our daily lives we just and as teachers we need to get people and be people who spend time with stuff that makes us uncomfortable, um, because then I think you're able to learn and grow and understand a little bit further of that subject because you spent time with it. But if we just decide, nah, I'm only going to stay with the comfortable side of things, then I think that's going to be then you're not growing, you're not learning. Um, Also, when you're talking, Eliza, it reminds me, um, I don't know where I heard it, but someone had like told me at one point, it's like there's harm in labels. And I think when we decide that we're going to label something or somebody or a group of people, we're harming ourselves and we're harming them because now they're put in that box and they shall never exit that box because that is their box and that is their label. Um, and I think a lot of the times that gets done, especially in political parties. But if we decide that we're going to label somebody or something or ourselves, I think that creates the harm as well because now they can't exit that. And I am putting them in a box. Yeah, interesting
I
notes.
like that. Be careful with
Mhm.
what you put in boxes.
Yeah, okay. Um, I forgot to set my timer, but do we any other thoughts on the ratings or anything else wants to be shared?
Um, it was cool to kind of learn about like different, or is it like the cultures,
Mm-hmm.
like the body ritual of like among the Nisarima, or like the culture image where I think that was just like a picture that we looked at, like it was just like a link to the picture. Where it's
Yeah.
just like this is like deep culture, which is like body language and like order of time, like things that are almost fixed to like surface culture, like games and fine art. And I don't know, that just like really said to me that's like we each have like a personal culture or like and then like a group and family culture and then like an educational culture, societal culture. Like it's not like we're American, so we have an American culture. Like there's so many different aspects of culture that truly make up like the culture we live in.
Mm-hmm. It's so cool too when you think about it, because I think culture is one of the things that should be shared. And in some aspects, it makes people uncomfortable when you learn about a new culture sometimes. And so I think it's one of those things that need to be shared so that we can better understand one another. Instead of just being like, you're this culture, so I'm just gonna leave you alone because of reasons I don't have. But yeah, I think culture's a fun one. I also thought it was interesting that dress was like at the top of culture, and that's for some reason the main thing that everyone's like, you can't do that. But yeah, that's a good one. I like that a lot. I'm trying to think if there's anything else in the ratings that I was like, haha, but I don't remember.
Um,
Oh, there was the Jigsaw one in um the first reading that my brain malfunctioned trying to say. I did one for that one. It was the expressive individualism. Do we want to switch over? Because I kind of started, but do we want to switch over to Jigsaw's? The Jigsaw's within the reading.
sure. Yeah.
Okay. So, anyways, like I was saying, so Jigsaw one, it's expressive individualism and the restored gospel. Kind of the idea of it was that um the world has this view of expressive individualism of um like it's my truth kind of sort of way is what it reminded me a lot of. And then there's the gospel where it's like there's the gospel truth and the divine nature. Um, and that aspect of things. It reminded me a lot of what my religion teacher has talked about this semester, where it's like truth can't be decided by you, but truth is decided by Heavenly Father and is an eternal truth that is never changing and never ending. And so when we're like, oh, that's my truth, it's that sort of thing, you're like, this is my thing, then like you kind of, I don't know if that makes any sense. Like you then adjust it and you change it. But with the gospel, you have your divine nature. You are divinely son or daughter of God in that aspect. I don't know. That's what I remember. That's my thoughts on that Jigsaw because I thought it was fun.
Mhm. I had the same one. And something I picked up on a lot of what you said. But something that I noticed, the difference between expressive individualism and the gospel like overall perspective was that like expressive individualism focuses heavily on follow your heart or follow your instinct or things like that. And then the gospel perspective was all about following Christ and knowing who you are as a child of God rather than your identity comes from your feelings and whatever. And so it was just kind of interesting to see that like while there were like some similarities, there were also some differences that kind of um broke it down. And so you can kind of see the clear differences of this is how the world sees everything, and then this is how the gospel sees everything.
Mhm. Yeah, there's like that two perspectives of like the gospel is going to, I feel like the gospel just makes it so it's a broader perspective with the plan of salvation and everything there. And then the worldview and the expressive individualism is very just here and now, but it's also very individual. Like it's more what's the word? Just self-centered um versus what I think the gospel's aspect is.
No, I definitely see that. Um, my first Jigsaw was really um talked. Okay, this one was I don't know. It was called like Worldwide Apologies, but it kind of like went over like if you have two people who have like the same like doctrinal beliefs, and like he kind of did an example where it's like, this is Greg, this is John, or whatever. Um, and they're both LDS, and they both have these like shared doctrinal beliefs because of that. Um, But then this one sees this situation completely opposite than this one, and then goes through like a couple different ones, and it's just like, well, how can people with the same doctrinal views have such different um beliefs about other things? And like see certain things as like freedoms, and the other one sees that same thing as like kind of like a ball and chain on their life. Um and so I don't know, just how it's like where just because the same like doctrinal beliefs are shared, everybody's got different worldviews shaped by the world that they are in and the world that they've gone through. Like everybody's raised so differently and interpreting the world so differently. It's like you can't, judge somebody based on that because they're honestly probably just trying to make the best decision that they can. So, yeah. And then talked about like if we can't name it at all, if it doesn't exist, like how this guy figured out like what a I forgot what kind of tree it was, a Joshua tree looked like. And he was like, "Whoa, I've never seen a Joshua tree before." And I think it was that the one that I can't remember what video that was from. My notes are all kind of blurred together. But then he goes home and it's like Joshua tree, Joshua tree, Joshua tree. It's like, whoa, yeah. But yep, it's a good jigsaw.
Mhm. Haley, you're muted.
Girl, hold on a second. I got really excited and forgot that I muted myself because I was stuffy. Anyways,
You're good.
I love Joshua trees so much. They're like the most unique trees ever. I served my mission in California, and so we saw Joshua trees all the time, because we were in the Mojave Desert. But it's like one of those like trees. I'm gonna go on a little bit of a rant right now, but they're like so unique in and of themselves. And though they're grouped as Joshua trees, they're very individual. Like you can't have one tree outside of another. And so I'm gonna relate this to people. We're all so weird and we're all so unique in our own ways, but we need to understand how to stand on our own and be that unique, weird self. Um, anyways, I love Joshua trees. That made me so excited. Ah.
I was gonna say I also served my mission around Joshua trees because my mission went into like Palm Desert where the the park where like the national park is.
Mm-hmm.
And so um it was I've been stabbed by a few. Let me just tell you, they hurt. Um, but the interesting part about I think Joshua trees in general is that they're only in two places in the world. Like they're only in California, and then isn't it Greece? I
Yeah,
want to say.
and like where Jesus was,
Mm-hmm. And so
Jerusalem.
somebody, I think it was a ward member or someone we were teaching, but she was like, "Isn't it?" She's like, "Do you think that cat like this area is just like a holy place because we're one of like the only two places in the world that grows it?" And we were all kind of like, "Hmm, maybe." And so it kind of goes back to what we were saying where where Haley was saying that we're all different, but we all have to come together. And so I think that it's cool that they're on both sides of the world because I mean eventually if we all will come together. It may not happen today because we're all obviously very different and we all have different perspectives and different things that we're skeptical of. But one day we'll be able to one day hopefully everybody will be able to uncheck people out of those boxes and be able to change and be able to come together and work together to like create something that is a little bit more unified where we're not all you're different, you're bad. Instead it'll be more like, oh, you see this differently and I see it this way and this is why.
Yeah, so true. I just drew a Joshua tree in my notes. It's not a
Perfect.
great Joshua tree, but it's a tree. Anyways,
Hey, Joshua trees are unique, right?
Hmm.
yeah, freak, yeah, they are. So I got really excited. Okay, cool. Shall we move on to the 99 studies and the paper and that side of things?
Yes, ma'am.
Um, studies and paper. Okay. Um, anyone want to start us off?
I can. I've got mine pulled up right here.
Okay, perfect.
Um, I'm just trying to decide. I really liked the ones I did for my 99 studies. I did like um the one about self-talk, the one about parents and reading, and the one about stress and uncertainty.
Ooh.
I guess about the one about stress and uncertainty. Um, key takeaway from teachers, like I don't know, it talked about kind of like understanding that like learning can be a stressful and uncertain environment. Like, learning can put stress on anyone. Learning is full of uncertainties, like trying to understand what's going on. Um, and that, it actually can like play a big role. Like trying to do it can like trigger learning can like trigger stress, but then it's also like helping students normalize feelings of stress and anxiety. And it reminded me a lot of like that lady in the therapy in a nutshell, where she was kind of like, like if you're anxious around dogs, like go to a dog park.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, with students, like you want them to feel comfortable in your classroom all the time. Like you don't want them to feel like stressed out, and like on edge and like nervous the whole time, but it's just like helping them like, okay, like, learning's hard. You get stressed and anxious and nervous around learning because you're afraid you're gonna mess up and all this. So just like being aware and just trying to take it slow with them and help them build up that like confidence. And then what does this say? Then I don't know, there's this little quote where it's just like those that accepted that stress can sometimes be helpful were more likely to feel better, perform to a higher level, and seek out more feedback during stressful situations. That, stress was given to
Definitely.
us to like help us. and like allow us to learn and grow and like find solutions to tough problems. But it's like, we need to be able to understand that like we can only handle so much stress. But then the stress we do feel, like it can help when we're like, okay, we're stressed out because we're trying to figure this out, and kind of justifying why you're stressed out in a sense. Like, oh, I'm stressed out because I have this assignment due. This assignment is kind of triggering that stress. Let me do what I can to get this assignment done so I can feel that relief in the stress. Because our natural tendency as a person is to kind of snowball the effect and like allow adrenaline to take over.
Hmm.
Um, and then just, yeah, we need to be grateful for where we are and have faith for where we're going.
Amen.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Stress is one of those things. Uh, in my general psychology class that I took last semester, it's like understanding that stress in a lot of cases is a choice between you and stress, if that makes sense. Like you can decide how if you're gonna be stressed out, that it's gonna become like to your detriment, or you can work on it to help it be helpful in that sort of way. Stress is fun. I like stress, not all the time, but it's fun.
Mhm.
Cool. Thanks, Savannah.
Yeah.
Eliza, do you want to go next?
Sure. Sorry guys, my cat took over my iPad. Um,
The cat wins.
she does win. I was like, I promise I'm still here. No. I did the one about mindset, attitude, and self-esteem. Um, and that one was really interesting because the main findings were those are, it talked a lot about like the growth mindset. And so it said the ones with the most growth mindset were more likely to prioritize learning goals over performance ones, feel excited, inspired, and enthusiastic about their academic performance, and have an increase in self-esteem during late adolescence. And the ones where with a fixed mindset were more likely to prioritize immediate performance over learning, attribute both their failures and successes to external and uncomfortable factors such as luck, and then suffer a dip in self-esteem during late adolescence. And so the main focus was kind of like, how do we help the kids in with that fixed mindset of this is what I have to do. I can't branch out of it. If I don't pass, I'm gonna fail. That I'm a failure. I'm a disappointment. And I think I often find myself in that fixed mindset a lot of the times because especially in school, I often find that um, I rate my successes and failures with my self-esteem more than I should. And so this one just kind of stuck out to me of how can I as a teacher help my students not do what I did, not have that fixed mindset, and how can I help them grow into a growth mindset, which is kind of what they had in the classroom implication was how can we rate both our successes and failures and grow from it rather than just stay where we're at. And it kind of goes into life is, oh, I didn't do what I wanted to do at work today, or I didn't get the homework I wanted to done, and that's okay. How can I move on from it later? What can I do later on that can help me continue to succeed rather than I'm just gonna sit here and accept my fate and fail. Um, and it kind of goes into um the gospel principle, I feel like mainly the atonement, because oftentimes um sometimes it happens to me, but I've seen it happen in a lot of friends and family members where they'll they'll sin and they're like, well, I'm too far gone. I can't move forward because I've done this. And that's why we have the atonement is so when we do sin or we do make mistakes, we're not just stuck there and we're not um a failure in God's eyes. We can keep moving forward and we can repent and work to and make goals to towards that eternal progression, to continue on the path of finding joy. Because as Elder Kana said, this is the church of joy, and that's why we're here to find joy and to make those connections to help us come out of the fixed mindset that the world has put on us of if you don't do this then you failed. Instead it's more okay, like I've done this, well how can I move forward? And so I love that it kind of is just like how Christ has centered his gospel is you're not a failure because you've made this mistake. You can keep moving forward and you can try like, over and over again, and I'll still love you.
Hmm.
I really like that. His atonement is so, so powerful.
All right, I'm just writing down because I like the idea like the atonement is a growth mindset. It's not a fixed mindset in that aspect. Um, I'll write that down later. I'm reading that process. Okay, so I need to pull up my notes. I did. I also really liked this week's 99 studies. I love them a lot. Um, which one do I want to do? I liked the one that was like effective, like electronic note taking, if that makes sense. With it, it kind of was talking about how um like students will take notes on like their laptop or like their iPad or a lot of sort of things, versus students who like handwrite their notes. It pointed out that students who handwrite their notes were like retained more information than students who typed the notes. And when they typed or when they used the electronics or that sort of thing, they um, were writing a lot of lectures by verbatim. And so they weren't actually like adjusting the phrase to something that they were understanding in that aspect. And so kind of as a takeaway for teachers is trying to make like get that shared. It was pointed out in the study, it's like this is something that we're not going to be able to like we've tried to change in students, but it's really hard to change in students. And so I think as teachers, we need to, I think in some ways have that emphasis of like, hey, like just so you're aware, make sure like here's the best way to take notes and to understand that process. Um, and then the life takeaways, I was just thinking, I was like, anywhere, like at work where I work right now, I have meetings that I go to. Um, and I realize I take a lot of notes on my phone, which is not great. Because I forget a lot of that information. But then if I handwrite my notes, I remember the information there. And so just in life, we need to we're in a lot of settings in which notes can be we're taking notes often. And then with the gospel, I was just it helps you learn and grow. Like when I'm doing scripture study, um, I do it a lot on my phone, but I think there's more power that can come from having your physical scriptures out or having your physical notes and such out. Like on my mission, I learned so much and I was doing it all by hand, like by paper. And electronics were there, but they were just like a plus one. So I really like that study. I think it's important to recognize how we take notes and how we learn really matters.
No, 100%.
Perfect.
Sorry guys, my cat jumped on the bed and missed and took my notebook with her. That's why I laughed.
Oh my gosh, yes. What's your cat's name? I'm just curious.
Mimi.
Mimi. Oh my goodness, that's amazing. That's
It's
awesome.
so funny because it caught me off guard. And I forgot it wasn't on mute.
That's amazing. It's okay. Okay, cool. I think the final thing and is the paper of the week, which was talking about spanking kids.
Yep.
And part of me is like, how abusive is this? Because I was spanked as a kid and I felt like it really actually was good.
Okay, that's like actually a conversation like I had last night, like filling this out.
Mhm.
Because I was looking at it and the people I was with, it's like, oh, we were like all spanked as kids. And it's like not necessarily like we talked about how there's like a difference of like spanking for spanking. And like I told you not to run behind the car and you ran behind the car and now you get like a swat on the butt and you're just like, oh, like more of like get your attention, pay attention. Next time when you're about to do that, you kind of hesitate.
Hmm. Or it's like you disrespected me, or like, I don't know, just like little things. In my brain, spanking can be a helpful form of punishment for a parent, if that makes sense, because it instills fear for the child, what I think needs to be done. But I do agree with what you said, Savannah. Like, there's a difference between spanking to just swat the kid, or or like actually being like, this is the consequence of your action.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, new reading.
Mm. I mean, I was spanked as a kid and I turned out fine.
Well, that was like what I put for like on my form, like what questions you still have. Because I feel like in the article at some point it was kind of like kids that are spanked like show more aggression or like this have
Mhm.
more behavior problems and like all this as kids and I'm like okay like when they're teenagers are you able to tell which ones are spanked as kids and which ones weren't?
Mm-hmm.
As like adults are you able to? Like in adulthood at that point like is there still a negative correlation with spanking or is there no correlation with spanking or is there a positive correlation with spanking?
Mhm.
Like what does it look like after childhood?
Yeah. Oh, and I feel like, especially with how the world is today, where people don't spank their kids anymore. And so I'd like to see like the study done again today with the parents, with like oh, spanking my kid is abuse. I would never. With the parents who do, who grew up being spanked and still do that. Because my cousins will do that with their kids. It's not like it's kind of just to get like their attention of, hey, you did something wrong. And it's not like they keep doing it. It's like a once and then done. They're like, okay, you didn't listen. Here you go. And the kids are like, kind of like, oh, I'm really in trouble. I'm a bit like they don't really have like because they're 3 and 2. Like it's not gonna really stick with them. It'll stick with them in the moment, but it's not really gonna be like my mommy doesn't love me. It's kind of, oh, I've messed up. I need to listen now kind of mindset for those guys. And so I'd like to see the study almost redone just to
That's a
see if it's changed.
that's a really good point, because I was like just checking. This was done, or at least this paper was put together in 2016. So about 10 years ago, which crazy, that's 10 years ago. Um, but I do think I would be interested in another study as well. Because I think, like you're saying, there's like now the gentle parenting. And like Savannah is saying, I'm like, are those kids that were spanked, were they aggressive when they were teenagers or when they're adults? Like, when's the aggression? That sort of aspect. It was an
Mhm.
interesting study.
It was.
Me disagrees with what it says, but that just might be just my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
it was kind of a
interesting.
interesting study.
Because I'm like, yes, I have mental health issues, but it's not like it's like a defining factor in who I am. And I don't think it just associates with being spanked. I think it's a bunch of other factors because we had that whole discussion, was it last week or the week before, about where mental health comes from and why. And
Mhm.
so it's not just, oh, I was hit as a kid. It's more so just like, it's more so like a bunch of different factors that play into it.
Yeah, agreed. I feel like there's a lot more that goes into I think what's the phrase? It's not a correlation. I don't remember the word. It's not a
Uh,
causation. Sorry. I don't think
yeah.
spanking is a causation. I think it's more that it's just like related in an aspect. Like, I don't know if that makes any sense. Like, there
Yeah,
might
no,
be a
it does.
relationship, but I don't think
Well,
it's the main cause.
yeah, just because like there's so many factors that go into raising a kid that can
Mm-hmm.
dictate like the way, like the parenting versus like genetics and like all that. Like every kid's different. Every kid needs different parenting styles or different aspects like that, like, like we all have, we're raised different and needed to be that way. And so I don't know. I don't think you can necessarily pinpoint a specific thing. I mean, in some instances, I'm sure you can pinpoint a specific event or events in a child's life that like determine the way they are now. Um, but I feel like those are fewer and further between, and that like simpler or like, spanking or like different types of like punishment and like, just like the day-to-day corrections might be like, I mean, they definitely matter, but like, I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that.
You know, I'm
That's
with
good.
you. There's more aspects to a child's growth and development than just a spank and swat in the butt.
Yep.
Mhm.
Nice. Okay, cool. Any other thoughts or anything else anyone else wants to add or say?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Cool. Okay, I will go ahead then and end the meeting, end the recording.